What's good, my dear language learning master? And welcome to a new episode of the Language Input Podcast, in which, as you know, I'm gonna answer the most common questions when it comes to the language learning process, and I'm gonna try to find the most common beliefs and misconceptions as well when it comes to the process, And as usual, I'm always gonna share my honest, fact-based opinion on the topic. All right, because I really appreciate honesty, and that's my calling card, and that's the way I want to talk about everything here in this podcast. So as usual, if what I'm saying is only based on my opinion, on a personal feeling, I'm gonna let you know. All right, perfect. And well, as usual, before getting into today's topic, I wanted to remind you that if you're listening to this on YouTube or any other platform where you can leave your messages, feel free to comment down below. Let me know what you think of this particular episode of the podcast in general. Whether you have any question, suggestion, comment on anything. Pretty much anything related to the language learning process, because I'll be more than happy to help you out, like I'm always saying, and you'll be giving me ideas for future episodes. So thank you in advance for that. And with that being said, let's get into today's topic. And today I want to talk about the alphabet. The alphabets in general, right? Because again, if we look at traditional grammar classes or traditional courses, it's like it repeats itself. Like, lesson number 1, the alphabet. How many times have we seen that, right? And again, pretty much like everything else when it comes to the language learning process, we adults try to consciously control everything we're learning. We try to be consciously aware of everything that's going on in our heads during the process, all right? When that's not the way the brain works, fortunately, to be honest. Because, fortunately, our brains are way smarter than we think, or way smarter than we give them credit for, okay? And we don't need to consciously control the process, so that's a good thing. But, getting back to the alphabet, like in every single language, like every single course, every single class, first class, first video, the alphabet, A, B, C, whatever. And, I'm not even going to talk about those languages in which the alphabet is the same as your alphabet, because, it doesn't make any sense. Like for me as a native Spanish speaker, when I've learned English, Portuguese, Italian, etc., it's the same alphabet, just a few different sounds, but as usual, in order to sort of acquire those sounds, you just need to listen to the language and you need to read. It's the same thing over and over again, right? But I'm gonna focus on learning the language with a different alphabet, because that's where most people always tell me, and I read about it, I see it everywhere, that let's take Russian as an example, because that's the language I'm working on right now, that's the language I'm learning, okay? And when it comes to oral comprehension, I didn't really start from scratch, because there's some similar words between Polish and Russian, right? But when it comes to the alphabet, they're completely different, right? The Polish alphabet has pretty much the same letters as ours, except for a couple extra letters, but, it's not that complicated, right? Whereas the Russian alphabet is the Cyrillic alphabet, and, it's a different alphabet. And every single time I've talked to someone about learning a language with a different alphabet, or I've read about it, etc., people are always telling about learning the alphabet, that you need to learn the alphabet, you need to memorize them. And for whatever reason, at that point I had not started learning Russian, so I didn't have a first-hand experience on the matter. But to me, it was like, I don't think that's the way to sort of learn to read in a different language, right? Or to learn, a new alphabet, right? Because, we're talking about Russian, there's not that many characters in comparison to, let's say, Chinese or Japanese. I think I'm not an expert in the matter, but I'd say in Japanese they have like thousands of characters, if I'm not mistaken, or even Mandarin Chinese as well, right? So there's no way you have to memorize those things in order to be able to communicate and write in the new language, right? So when I started learning Russian, I thought like I'm sure I don't need to memorize anything, because likewise I'm sure Russian kids don't have to memorize any particular character when they're starting out with the language, right? And whenever I'm in doubt, I always go the natural route, or whatever looks more natural to me, I go with it, all right? So, I started watching videos on YouTube, in Russian, of course, of other teachers, of other Russian teachers that teach the language through stories, through comprehensible input, and so on. So, they make the effort to make the message comprehensible for our students, right? And I actually started to realize that I was listening to a few videos of my friend Ina from Comprehensible Russian, and in some of the videos she has a map of Europe in the background, and there's there you can find the name of the countries in Cyrillic alphabet in Russian, right? And I started to realize that my brain, without me noticing or without my conscious effort, was starting to pick up patterns. Let me explain. Like, for example, there's a letter in the Cyrillic alphabet which is sort of a globe or a sphere with a stick. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but anyway. And I realized that that's the first letter in the name of France and in Finland in Cyrillic. So I was like, okay, so that must be the sound F, right? So like I said, without you even realizing, your brain starts to pick those things up, and it starts to recognize patterns. So okay, so that's the sound F, right? And then at the same time, while the teacher is talking about whatever, and if you're reading the words in the target language, you're also starting to recognize patterns, right? And I don't know what's another example, but with the different sounds in the language, if you read the words at the same time, you start to recognize patterns, like I said, and you start to realize that this specific character is close to the F sound, right? Or it's not always equivalent. Like F is, this symbol means an F, but sort of the F sound. All right, hope it makes sense. Yeah. And it wasn't that long actually. Like, I mean, there's still, I don't speak Russian yet, but I can understand more and more. And if I take a book in Russian, or just any written resource in Russian, I might not understand what they're talking about. I mean, because that's what I'm working on. I'm improving my Russian, but I can read it all. I mean, like, I can recognize the sounds and the alphabet, the characters, right? After just reading a few times and watching those videos. And I didn't have to memorize any single character, right? Any single character. No. Or even, I gave the example of countries that you recognize the bottom, the first letters in Finland and France. So you recognize that sound. And then when the teacher speaks and you read the words at the same time, that helps as well. But also, I don't know, if I remember, I was playing the geography game that I play sometimes in my channel, and there was a picture of Russia, and there was sort of like a garage or like mechanic, it's like a mechanic garage with cars and so on, and I could read the sign on the door, and it was auto service. All right, and I remember that I didn't recognize a couple of the characters, but because of the context, I saw the cars, so I realized what that was. Okay, that must be auto service, right, or something like that. So what I'm talking about is, as usual, as in any other part of the language, thanks to the context, thanks to comprehensible input, thanks to interesting topics, interesting conversations, interesting stories, interesting documentaries, or whatever it is, and to our brain, our subconscious brain being way smarter than we think, we don't need to consciously memorize characters in a new alphabet. All right, and once again, that's great news, right? And well, I'm not gonna get into other alphabets like Chinese or Japanese alphabet, in which the characters are completely different to what we're used to, because I don't have first-hand experience on it yet. Like, I'm starting with Chinese, with Mandarin Chinese, but I haven't gotten to the reading part yet. Okay, but I'm sure it's gonna work the same way, with some differences. But yeah. Anyway, whenever I'm deeper into that process with Chinese or Japanese or one of those languages with a completely different alphabet, I'll make a second episode on this topic, to sort of confirm with what I already think right now. Okay. And again, I'm talking about my personal intuition, or my personal feeling right now. Okay. So I'm not quoting any research study on the matter or anything. Like I said at the beginning, I really appreciate honesty, and I'm just talking about my personal feeling towards the matter. Okay. So who knows? Maybe I'll have to memorize some Chinese characters if I want to learn the language. I don't think so, but anyway, I'll talk about it in a future episode. All right. And well, yeah. So that's the topic for today. And if you're starting to learn Russian, or thinking about learning Russian or other other languages, just you're probably, I'm sure you can relate to this feeling, like the one I talked about when speaking about the map of Europe in the background, that I started to recognize patterns, and and you see that, like I said, our brain is way smarter than we think. Fortunately, of course. So yeah, just more good news, right? Like this is my goal with this project, like I'm always saying, to help people realize that we can all learn any language while enjoying the process every step of the way. So anytime I'm told about, having to memorize things, or having to, suffer through the process, or whatever you want to call it, I just think to myself, like, I don't think so. I don't think that's the way, because when kids learn the native language, it always works, right? It's not like my brother always says, like, it's not like a Russian kid is born with sort of a chip in his brain to learn the Russian language easier than we from a different country, right? They just learn the language because they follow the right principles. It's that simple, all right? But anyway, yeah, let me know if you can leave your comments. Let me know if what you think of this episode, whether you agree with me, whether you don't, whether you feel that if you're starting to learn a language with a different alphabet, whether you found this episode useful, whether you also think, like I do, that this is excellent news. It's like, so many people, or I heard from so many people and sources that, to learn, of course, traditional sources, right? Or sources with the traditional ideas. But that you need to memorize, the characters in the new alphabet. And I just, the feeling of being able to read in Russian, like to recognize the different characters already pretty quickly, like I said, it's just amazing. And, as I was saying, I don't speak the language yet, and there's a huge room for improvement. And if I read something, I don't understand what it's about most of the times. But I can read the words, I recognize them, and that's like the first step. And I didn't have to memorize anything. Like I said, not a single character, right? So, well, thank you again, my dear language learning master. Thank you for coming this far in this episode. And, I wish you a good day wherever you might be. And I'll see you in the next one. Yeah, don't forget to leave your comments down below. Thank you, my friend. Bye-bye.